Welcome all of you to this session that we are holding today. It's a very special session for all of us, from many counts actually, if you ask me. Uh, One is obviously in terms of how we're going to, as a university, how we're going to kind of navigate the new realities of the world which has come and forth with us. But more important, I think it is imperative for all of us to think in a larger context, and I think that's something of a belief that at Jagran Lake City University we carry right from the inception of it. So I think it is something we're very happy and very proud of it also. Uh, Many of you would know that Jagran Lake City University, Bhopal, is one of the fastest growing and one of the most awarded university of Central India, having practice-based pedagogy to its core. Currently, the university offers almost about 56 degree programs at the UG level, at the PG level, as well as the doctoral levels. University also has some amazing international partnerships with creme de la creme universities, almost about 29 of these partnerships. And most heartening part is that all these partnerships are extremely active. They give a lot of value addition to our students as well as to the members of the faculty and the staff. More importantly, as part of the belief, we also ensure that the students are able to get to learn the best from the best and in the best environment that we can provide them, uh, physical as well as digital. And I think that is something which makes us very proud. Jagran Lake City Bhopal is also part of the three Erasmus European Union projects funded by European Union Commission. Uh, and it has again provided a huge amount of impetus to how we want to ensure that the generations which you're trying to mentor as a part of the different degree programs are going to come out and contribute to the world in a larger sense. University currently is a country chair of Association of Universities of Asia Pacific, and is a member of the prestigious Association of Common Universities. Many awards to our credit, and I don't say this as a matter of bragging right, but more importantly, I think that's an expression of what the university does right from the first year students who come into our campuses, and also to the alumni as well as the members of the faculty. And I think that is again makes us very an exciting institution to talk about. Being digitally progressive higher education institution of I would say repute, we are willing to embrace new technologies. And currently, and very recently actually, QS iGauge ranking awarded us the topmost ranking when it comes to being digitally ready. We are very delighted to partner with leading technology organization Goalpole as a technology partner. And I think this is the kind of a partnership which is going to be the driving force behind a new technology platform for students, members of the faculty, staff, university influencers, partners, and various distinguished alumni who have passed through the corridors of our university. And I think that is making all of us at the university very excited because we've already kind of started to understand the new technology platform. And I think the benefits which will flow into the students and to the faculty are going to be immense. That's what I believe is. The learning management systems are actually, if you ask me, and I'm sure that Hemant and Jani as well as Mr. Abhishek Mohan Gupta, they'll talk about it more, are eventually the virtual hubs for students and the professors and people. And I think that just adds up to the entire, what you call the pyramid of learning that university offers. It's going to be a resource center, where the students are going to learn new things, collaborate new ways, and not just in terms of learning as an academic, but also in terms of how do they socialize. And interestingly, I want to bring it forth here itself is this particular thought process and the phenomena is not of a recent origin. University has always believed in a technology. We have always been a blended mode, so to say. But I think the current times have actually brought a lot of challenges for many institutions. Interestingly and fortunately for all of us, we were very well prepared much ahead of the time actually. That's why we were able to finish off our examinations and do many things which I think now institutions are beginning to do it. And that kind of brings us to the fact that a lot of things also need to be discussed, debated, and deliberated. But equally important is to introduce to all of you who are out here what this new learning management system and technology platform is going to be. And I have very distinguished people with me, and I would want to introduce at least a couple of them to you before I hand it over to Shivang Abhishek to introduce Polpol to all of you. Uh, we'll have a fireside chat, virtual fireside chat today, which Mr. Hemant Sahal would be driving, and the distinguished speaker and guest with us is Mr. Janki Raman Srinivasan, and he loves to be called Jani. He's a founder and chairman at Nuvoprayer Technologies Private Limited. 30 plus years of extremely enriching experience across product engineering arena, especially in the IT space. He was one of the first employees of Wipro when it was entered into the IT space long years back. He left Wipro as a chief executive of global R&D in 1999 and co-founded Mindtree along with the 9 other co-founders. And we all know how Mindtree actually changed the game to a very large extent into the IT and technology space. He has been a founder and executive council member of the Indian Semiconductor Association for almost 5 years. Served ISA for 1 year each as chairman and advisor as well. Currently president of Indo-Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry based in Karnataka, based in Bangalore. I think you would love as to how he brings technology, current partnership with Qualfol and Jagna Lake City University, and bring it all into a context where you'll understand the importance of this particular platform. And Hemant Sahal is obviously the CEO of Qualfol, brings in a huge rich value, and I'm very thankful to him as well for doing this fireside chat with Jani and discussing and sharing so many things with everyone. Now, without delaying it further, I would request Mr. Shivang Abhishek to actually tell us more about Qualfol, the platform that Jagna Lake City University has enabled. And post that, I would request Mr. Hemant Sahal to take over and deploy the fireside chat. Shivang, if you can take over, please.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Jani, sir, if that is what you like being called. Good afternoon, Abhishek, sir. It's been a beautiful 3 months association with Jagna Lake City University for us. We have so the amount of collaboration, the amount of understanding an education institution and we have it has been a brilliant ride. We have learned so much from the university. The product is evolving along with the university according to the inputs of so many people there, which have helped us grow tremendously, right? Here in the session, all the students, so I won't take much time. There is a much larger and a better conversation to have. I will quickly just probably showcase few things about Qualfol that the students would like to know, purely from a student's perspective, right? I do not have gray hair, so I'm pretty close to where you are right now. Obviously, I'm a little older. I also look a little older. But yes, what I would like to showcase to every student here is how from a mobile app, a campus app, we could or we would want you to give you a virtual campus experience. How is it that from your phones, which is probably one of the most powerful devices that all of us have right now, how is it that we can come together, collaborate, communicate, evolve the technology together, and the technology juggernaut which has started right now? There is no stopping it. It is going to progress exponentially now, especially with the coronavirus situation developing. I would like to present my screen and quickly show students few of the features which they will have access to and they can start using immediately. Yes. Is my screen visible?
I'm not able to see.
No. Yes.
Yeah, visible now.
Yeah, better now?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Okay. Not to again go deeper into the product side, especially with students waiting here. Just to tell you that we will try getting together 4 very big quadrants of a campus. That is your initial things, that is all your finance related things, all your attendance, academics related thing, to going ahead and ensuring a very digitized and contactless campus whenever the campus reopens, to a top layer where everyone, students, faculty, everyone can come together for a collaborated, engaged platform where all of us are much more informed. I'll quickly move ahead. Yes, so this is what we hope to achieve. We hope to give you a very unified campus experience on your mobile app. Few things: all your attendance will be taken care of. All your academic informations will be there. Your attendance, your examination marks, all of that in your Android or iOS mobile app. Collaboration. Now, this is something that we've always stressed upon. That is the learning outside classroom. When I was in college, I really wanted to start a club on football, and if I could have known at that point of time that these students could come along with me and we could start a club on football immediately, that would have been brilliant. You can do that. Post your interests here, and at the same time also understand interests of so many people, who are learning along with you. That is our campus collaboration. How do we do it? Once you open the app, once you start going through it, we've made it intuitive enough that you can understand how this happens. A very informative campus feed. All your notices, your reminders, all the events that the institution is planning, all those things will be available to you. Your entire knowledge management, all those your learning materials, in case there are some ebooks which have been uploaded, if you want to search and find out if there are some sample CVs which one of your seniors might have uploaded and you want to see how to go about making a CV, you can search for that and find that out. Again, you come together as a group to have interest groups. So let's say you start a group tomorrow on any form of preparation, in case you want to go ahead with higher education. You can start a group and people, whoever are interested, can come and join. You form a community there. I'll not go through this. Yes, your entire academics is here. Your learning management system, your assignments, quizzes, online examinations, all your notices. And this thing is, again, something if I had in college, all my events, all the campus events that is happening in one click. You can register for those events, get reminders about it, and so much more. Again, something which I was stressing at the start, that once as students and faculty, our job primarily is to make sure that we impart learning and we gather learning as students. We would want you to focus or invest your time in doing exactly that, learn. And all those other things which takes some of your time, whether it's asking for a bona fide certificate or saying that I want this service in my hostel, all those things will be automated through the app. And this feature would be further enhance your experience when it comes to contactless campus. So whenever the campus restarts, you will be able to scan QR codes and get things done. All your placements, everything will be here. All the different kind of opportunities that is coming in, internship and placements, and a very real-time feedback system. I would stop the screen sharing right now if I can know how to do that. Yes. I'm speaking about technology, but I'm not very familiar with GoToWebinar. I'm so sorry. But if has the screen sharing stopped? No. All right. Because last time I got a brilliant help, a teleprompter help from someone to be able to share my screen. Can I have that now? Yes, I've done that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. That's about it. There are so many different things that we'll keep getting to the platform to make sure that your experience is much more interesting. Yeah, thank you so much. Over to you, Hemant.
Thanks, Shivang. Thank you for the brief introduction. Thank you to Professor Shukla for the welcome address and setting the context right. Thank you to Mr. Gupta for creating this opportunity to organize this event. And finally, thank you to Jani sir for joining. I remember meeting him at the Mindtree office, I think about 4 or 5 years back. And I got late because Mindtree's office was quite a little outside the city or on the outskirts of the city. And by that, and Bangalore, being Bangalore, the traffic is always crazy. So I got very late. And he was so it was so nice of him to wait for me, and despite being maybe about and maybe 45 minutes late, he still gave me 10 minutes to have a chat. And after that, probably I stayed in touch, and he eventually ended up supporting us. And he has been a very early believer in Kolpol. And I remember when we had raised our seed round investment, like any entrepreneur, stories are important to us. So I was quoting Rumi in that meeting, and all my investors were sitting, and I said, Rumi said that put yourself on fire and find those who fan your flames. And I still remember Jani sir saying, don't worry, I'll fan you enough, that you'll keep burning, don't worry. So somebody who has built a very successful organization, somebody who remains very still very silent, and continues to enjoy the things which matter the most, the family, the friends, and other things, and someone who really has stuck to the roots, someone who has not lost his humor, is known in his friend circle for his wittiness, his jokes. He's the most active member in his I think on his WhatsApp group of his class groups, and I keep hearing so many stories. So thank you, Jani sir, for joining. And for everyone benefit, because I do know you quite well, a lot of your classmates quite well, and I almost feel like maybe I was a part of the class maybe to some extent now. My first question is, because so that everybody gets to know you better. Mindtree is a big name, Wipro is a big name, and you've been part of both the large organizations from the very early days. But what is important, and something which we would like to everyone to know, is a little bit more about your childhood. Where did you grow up? Where did you do schooling? What did your parents do? And how did you landed up at NIT Trichy, IIT Madras, and how did Wipro happen? Being one of the first 5 guys is amazing, to at a company which is so huge, which not only changed the country's future, it changed Wipro's future as well, right? Because that's the biggest asset they have today. So share a little bit more about your childhood, school days, and college days with us.
Sure, Hemant. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. Especially, I would like to thank Professor Shukla, Mr. Gupta, and Mr. Abhishek, and the Jagran Lake City University for giving me this opportunity. And for Hemant, whom I know now for the last 6 years in person, I'll tell you, I have somewhere around 5 direct investments in startups and another 15 indirectly. Out of all the entrepreneurs I keep meeting, he is the youngest and most energetic and very, very focused actually. It's an opportunity for me to have such kind of entrepreneurs, to spot them and then to support them. I'm pretty happy about the progress Kolpol is making, and especially in the change time of COVID. There will be a tremendous change in the way the learning happens, the interaction happens between faculty, students, administration, and parents, and the right product at the right time by Kolpol. Best wishes to you for much more growth and successful launch of the Kolpol product at Jagran University. Thanks for asking me to recall about my early childhood. I was born and brought up in a place called Swami Malai, which is in Tamil Nadu, and something like 10,000 people, small town, and it had a municipal school over there. And I did my elementary schooling at the Swami Malai, the temple town, where today morning only I was recalling about my maths teacher, one Pakrisamy Pillai. He set the foundation when I was doing my 3rd or 4th class to get interest into maths. That's the way people used to be dedicated to teaching and then used to nurture at the early age. And you can never forget when you look back who set the foundation for your future. And maths had been one of the strong subject for me. But my father was a small town postmaster, and it's a central government job. But he used to keep getting shifted to various smaller towns actually called Kuttalam and Adudurai and Kumbakonam, those kind of places. And he was very particular that I should not miss studies because of he shifting schools pretty often. To give a little background about my father, he got 98% in SSLC when he studied, and he was so fond of studying, but he was a son of a Prohit, and unfortunately my grandfather died when he was in SSLC, so he has to take up a job, and that he remembered always. He told that what I missed, I don't want my son to miss. So he put me with my grandfather at Kumbakonam, a neighboring town, a little larger one, and I went for schooling from Kumbakonam from 6th standard onwards. It's a school called Native Way School. It's a private school, but a very smaller school, and closer to my grandfather's house. There was a bigger school called Town High School, which had English medium. But my grandfather told, if you are with me, I can't take chances. Better go to this school. And frankly, I didn't have any idea. But my father told that it's better to be in a town school in a local language medium, the Tamil medium, rather than English medium school, which is far away. But he can't manage because he needs my grandfather's help. My grandfather had been very kind, and then I grew up at my grandparents' house from 6th standard. And frankly, after that, maybe for 1 year during my 11th, those days SSLC used to be 11 plus 1 plus then the college actually. So only 1 year I spent with my parents. Otherwise, always I had been away from them. Uh, but the school again is a wonderful school. The languages of medium, how much it matters or doesn't matter, I didn't know. And frankly, my own aspiration or ambition or dream was not to become an engineer, because fundamentally, my father cannot afford me going to engineering college actually. So my dream was limited to becoming a chemist, because I have seen in movies the acids and some liquids being mixed and some color fumes coming, and somebody saying that I have invented something. So I thought maybe I can become at the best a chemist or a chemistry related person. And that's how I did my schooling and then completed my schooling. And I got a pretty good score in the school. I was the second rank in the school, and in the district possibly within the 4th or 5th, but at the state level it would have been beyond 10. But still it was a very good score for me to get during the SSLC. So the difference between myself and my father was, my father's ambition was I should become a bank clerk. Okay, so he wanted me to study BCom, which has just then started, and my ambition is to become a chemist or a chemistry person actually. So I wanted to do BSc chemistry. So I told my father that my PU professor, who was one Dr. Srinivasan, we will go to him and then we will ask what is good for me. So both of us went, and my father asked this same question, and professor told, why are you putting him into BCom or a BSc? Why not he try a engineering college? My father told, how can I afford? I am a postmaster. My salary is around 400 rupees at that time. It was around 73, and I can't afford it actually. So that's when the professor told that Jani has got good marks and he will surely get scholarship, and you will possibly a little bit struggle for the first 4 or 5 years, but it is worth that investment. Ask him to apply. Then I rushed, and by that time already the applications, the due dates were ending very close by. I went ahead and then applied for engineering, and fortunately I got my engineering at REC Trichy. REC Trichy and Gindi engineering colleges were the top 2 engineering colleges outside, rather inside Tamil Nadu. And I joined REC Trichy, and in REC Trichy, there again the confusion started. There was a BTech chemical, and all other engineering used to be called as BE, which will be allocated only in 3rd year. Whereas the BTech chemical, you have to apply for a special exam, and if you get eligible, you will become a chemical engineer. Okay, so it's a 5-year course for BE, but 3rd year into engineering, whereas the BTech is right from 1st year the chemical. So I went ahead and then wrote the BTech chemical exam within the college, and I got selected for the BTech chemical also, and I joined. There was one Professor Ibrahim, who was very strict HOD, but extremely good person, and then he welcomed all, and then we had the first day session. Then I went back to the hostel, and those days the ragging was not all that controlled. So one of my senior who ragged me, he asked me what branch you have, rather what are you, BTech or BE? I told I am BE. He asked what is your father? I told my father is a postmaster actually. Pretty good. My father is also a postmaster, but I want to know why did you choose BTech chemical? I told him my dream is chemistry and chemical is pretty good, so I wanted to do in chemical. I didn't even know that there is a BTech chemical exists. After coming here, I got to know. I wrote and then I got it. He told Johnny, if you want to be closer to your parents and if you want to be in South India, there is only one company called SPIC in Tuticorin. Other than that, there is nothing in chemical. And if you have to go beyond, it has to be to Gujarat. Suddenly, I'm hearing echo. I don't know whether you people are hearing. The last 1 minute.
I heard a bit, maybe, yeah. So maybe everyone.
Yeah, just started. Okay. So he told me that you will end up either in Gujarat or you will end up in some Saudi Arabia or a Middle East. So my advice is not to take chemical. And frankly, for me, first time I was going outside my town itself. And where is the question of going to Gujarat or Middle East actually? So I decided that I'll go back to engineering. And my professor Ibrahim was so passionate about his chemistry department. I thought it's going to be a tough thing for me to get out and get back into BE. I went and then told my HOD that I want to be back in the engineering BE course, not in the BTech chemical. One line reply came from him. See, I run this department passionately. If somebody is not interested, I don't want to see his face again. He can go. It was over. So that's how I got into engineering. So having done engineering, it was somewhere around a total of 160 students, out of which 130 were in engineering and 6 branches. So each branch used to have around 25 to 30 students. So that's how the REC Trichy was. First of all, I want to tell you that when I entered into the engineering college, I didn't know how to speak one word of English. Luckily, my father used to get Hindu newspaper. I read a little bit of English, but otherwise I had been all through in Tamil medium. And REC Trichy used to have 50% people coming from outside state and 50% from inside state. And within that 50% inside state, 80% from big metros like Coimbatore or Chennai or something. And most of them are English medium brought up. And then, I didn't know how I'm going to face the world in the first semester of engineering, because I thought English equal to knowledge and I may be not all that good. But the first semester results came and I stood within the top 3 in the 40 member class. That's when it gave me the confidence that English has nothing to do with knowledge. English is just one other language and you can learn. I started interacting more with people and then started learning English. I'm giving a lot of background about my early age because that may be more relevant to the students rather than what is technology that they will always learn, I think. So if you don't mind, I'll just take 2 more minutes to complete the story. Okay?
Absolutely.
So it's okay, Hemant?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay. So then I went into the completed second year. In the third year, the branches used to be allocated. In the third year, when I went into allocation of the branch, I was somewhere around 43rd rank out of the 160 people. And those days you had to give preferences for your branch, and everybody preferred first branch as the mechanical, and second was the electronics actually. It was not electronics, was not the first because IT was not even known that time. and there are hardly few electronic companies like Bharat Electronics and few in India. I missed my electronics by just 2 ranks, rather mechanical by 2 ranks. I also applied for mechanical and I didn't get. It went up to 41st rank because there were something like 6-7 who preferred electronics as the first preference, and then I got electronics. And I felt maybe I need to do electronics, and didn't too much bother about it. But to some extent in my family circle, people felt, oh, why did you land in electronics? I told, actually it doesn't matter. I don't know whether it's electronics or mechanical. Everything is same to me, and let me go ahead and then do electronics. So that's how I did my electronics. And when I completed my BE engineering, I wanted to go for a job. But my father was too particular. He told Johnny, we won't get another opportunity to study. And I could not study more than SSLC. You should do more. And because of him, I went ahead and then appeared for the GATE exam those days and got selected at IIT Madras for the MTech. And it was in electronics arena. They used to call it as low current. High current was power and low current was electronics. That's how it was at that time, actually. So I ended up in the low current and then did my MTech. And during MTech, to ensure that I am able to socialize much more, interact with people, I stood for the mess secretary election at hostel and got elected also. And that gave me opportunity to deal with so many people, whether it is the mess supervisor or the cook or the servant or the vendors, then the students, the guests, the challenges of students expecting something and then not being served, or the budget for the mess going beyond what people can afford, and you need to find alternate methods of serving good food but reducing it. So I learned, I can say, a little bit of business being a mess secretary. That was the first exposure to the business. One story I forgot, during my engineering college, I had a small chikki and cigarette shop also. That also gave me some money during the engineering time, BE time actually. So then during I completed my MTech, and then MTech I had 3 jobs. Luckily those days there was no restriction on the number of job, and everybody got job because of being IIT. One was DEAL Dehradun, Defense Electronics Application Laboratory, senior scientist, and another one was at SAIL Ranchi, and then the third one was at Wipro. Out of this, if you ask me, DEL was a central government job. My father wanted me to grab that, and supposed to be a gazetted officer rank right on day one. And he wanted me to be in that because that's a safe job. SAIL Ranchi is another one where the opportunity was in the control electronics in the plant, and then I had been a little passionate about it. That was interesting. And Wipro at that time was known as Western India Vegetable Products. WIVPRO, and they were making Vanaspati and soap. They used to have a camel soap and they used to have sunflower Vanaspati. Those are the 2 leading brands in the Western India region, and it was not known in IT. It was entering into the IT field. But I just like that applied for Wipro, and then I was the only person selected from Wipro. There were a few things which were attractive about Wipro. One, the people who came for the interview, that Sridhar Mita, who is still my guru, and later in the final interview, Mr. Asim Premji, he used to come for the campus interview those days. Wipro was a 34 crore company at that time. Okay, 34 crore company. And Amalner at Maharashtra was the one where they had the factory for making the soap and Vanaspati actually. So they were very, very impressive. That was first thing. And second, Bangalore is closer to Tamil Nadu, so it's easy for me to be closer to my parents. And frankly, I didn't know what is startup or what is early stage. So I decided to go for Wipro, but my parents, especially my father, was very much against it. Private company, unknown company, non-government. Why do you want to take risk? I told my father, I want to be closer to you. I don't want to be far away. I can't get a job at Kumbakonam where you live, but at least let me be not too far away from you. Because those days, if I had gone to Dehradun, they were not easy to get flights actually, and it's very costly also. Maybe once in 2 years I would have turned up and then I would have looked at my parents. So I decided that it's better to be close by, because here it is something like 8 to 10 hours of bus journey I'll be able to manage actually. So that's how I landed at Wipro. And having landed at Wipro, I realized I am the third employee at Wipro. Frankly, I didn't know about that till I joined. And I was the third employee in 1980. I joined on July 15th at Wipro. And it was a fantastic choice by accident in terms of getting into Wipro. So your first question came in. I hope it was not too long.
Yeah, no, I think it sets the context right. I think few takeaways for at least the students who are attending. One, there is so much learning which happens in addition to the classrooms. Organizing an event, becoming a coordinator for some activities, mess committees, student council. I think there is so much of real life learning that happens there. So that's I think one big lesson of how that happens. Second, there's nothing which stops you from getting into new fields that you studied in a different you went into chemical, then got into the other engineering, and a lot of it was unplanned. So I think amazing lessons for students to take. And also, wow, that's very historic. So you are saying that Mr. Azim Premji took your interview as in the final round, and you happen to be the third man in Wipro, which is known to be one of the largest companies. So wow, that's like an amazing memory to have. So I remember you sharing some very interesting stories about your early Wipro days, and that's again another thing I want to bring out to the students who are attending the session, that how nothing is actually nothing is glorious or successful in the in the starting. How it's a journey, how they should be prepared for a longer haul, and they should be looking at growing themselves over a period of time rather than just expecting results in a short term. So I want you to share some interesting stories from the Wipro days. I remember you telling that the office was in basement, and how the water got accumulated once when it rained too much, and the desktops were floating. So I would love to know, for students to know that what was Wipro in those days and what it has become.
Sure. Thanks, Hemant. And just one other learning I can say right from early stage, and even at a later stage, is several times we think that we have missed something in life. You wanted to be a chemical engineer, you are not a chemical engineer. You wanted to be a mechanical engineer, you are not a mechanical engineer. You wanted to go to job, your father insisted on going for further education. Like that, several times what we want and what we land up may be different actually. And several times we tend to believe that maybe I'm not destined to what I want, but it is not so. There is a destiny which is driving us behind, and we don't know. Maybe every miss that we have in our life may be for something better. If I didn't get into electronics, I wouldn't have got into Wipro as a third employee. I would have landed in Ashok Leyland or somewhere in some mechanical company. Nothing wrong about it. But what I'm saying is, you think that you have missed something, but you end up in something even better. That's what happens in life. I want that to be the learning. Whether somebody is doing a BA or a BCom or a BSc, it doesn't matter at all. It's incidental. When you look back after 20 years, 30 years, maybe that is the right step that you have taken. And that's what takes you in your life. So go ahead with confidence with what you have, rather than regretting with what you don't have. That's what I'll like to leave as a thought behind actually.
Lovely, lovely.
So
some interesting Wipro stories.
Yeah, go ahead, Hemant. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I'm saying love to know some interesting stories from early days of Wipro.
Sure. No, see, when I started getting into Wipro, as I told you, I was the third employee, and for the first 5 months, we were just five of us plus one assistant, 6 of us. We were at a place called Dickinson Road, 45 Dickinson Road. It's a basement which was supposed to be originally meant for car park, but they decided to convert to office. The owner, And Wipro was a very frugal company actually, and ethical company also. I'll come to the ethics part later. So they decided to take that basement and then our office. And we didn't want to hire, rather buy chairs at that point of time. So we went to a agency called Saleh Ahmed and then hired the chairs on a monthly rental, where I still remember one or two pants which got torn with the nails that were protruding from the chair actually. Okay, so that's how the Wipro's office started. And then we had tied up with a company called Sentinel Corporation, which is at Cincinnati, USA, for buying technology. Wipro believed that building from scratch will take too long. At the same time, buying and selling is only a trading job. We need to be a master in the technology, master in the product that we own, and we need to get it to the market. So we took the medium opportunity of buying the technology and then indigenizing it. So first 1 to 1.5 years had been indigenization of the technology suitable for the Indian market, finding vendors, redesigning the product to suit to the Indian requirements, all those things actually. And we used to go lock the office because just 5 of us to a neighboring coffee shop called Udyavan at that time in the MG Road, and then come back to office. Every day when we used to walk on the road, we used to find a person in the opposite direction coming with a cycle and then a can of coffee and serving to the shops on the side. For at that time, I don't know whether it's 1 rupee or whatever it is. And we thought, why do we every day have to lock the office and then go for coffee? Why not you ask the person to serve coffee for us? And that person by name Surendran Nair started with just 5 coffees in the morning and 5 coffees in the afternoon. And around 2000, that is 1999, he was serving totally 6 lakh coffee a day for the IT companies, out of which somewhere around 3 lakh coffee was for just Wipro, for morning and afternoon for multiple facilities actually. I always quote him because in his early days, he never missed one day in terms of serving the coffee. Even during a Onam holiday, which is a Kerala's major festival, he will put somebody in substitute. He will come to our table and tell the assistant what each one likes, whether somebody likes a hot coffee or a cold coffee, more coffee powder or less coffee powder, sugar or no sugar, to that level, and always a smiley face. But what I'm trying to say is, that there is no business which is less than or better than. He was much, much richer than many of the Wipro engineers at some point of time, and even today possibly. Okay, so that's a very, very important thing that you need to know. And the first 2 years had been at Wipro, where we learned a lot tremendously. We had some of the leaders who joined from ECIL Hyderabad into Wipro as the R&D managers, and they nurtured us heavily. And during the first 1.5 years, once the indigenization got completed, then we took it to the factory. Factory was built at Mysore, which was something like 130 kilometers away from Bangalore, where R&D was located. And the factory head requested me whether I can come over to factory for 1 or 2 years and train the people on testing and system integration. And I had no hesitation. I thought it's a good opportunity to learn something over there. So moved over to factory, and in factory, it was a significant opportunity. One, I had an opportunity to learn the local language, Kannada language, which I didn't know before, because you had to work with the working level people, the tradesmen they call, the people who do the soldering and assembly and wiring and so many things actually. I had an opportunity to train so many engineers. I was able to understand a product which design in R&D, which we think is the ultimate, what kind of challenges it faces when it has to be manufactured in the manufacturing unit, in terms of the layout, in terms of the assembly convenience, in terms of the wiring, in terms of the so many other aspects which we tend to ignore. As long as in R&D something is functional, we think that it is the end of the product. R&D is just 20 to 30% of the overall product success. It is how you make it manufacturing worthy, how you make it field worthy, how it gets manufactured, how it gets supported in the field, how it gets sold in the market. So many aspects that define the success of the product actually. So that gave me an opportunity to be in the manufacturing. Then I came back to R&D and I took up a job called System Integration Unit, where it is mainly taking an R&D product, making it manufacturing worthy, transferring technology to factory. So though it's an R&D job, it's a bridge job between the R&D and manufacturing. And somewhere around 1984, my father got retired, actually 84, 85. And at that time he had very little saving, and always my parents have lived in offices come home. Post office used to be in the front, and then the home used to be at the backyard, a very small home. And many times that gets never repaired because possibly post offices don't pay high rent, and the owners never repair anything in the house. And water used to flow in during the monsoon time. That was the thing. So I decided that in 1985, when my father got retired, that at least I need to support him with a house or an apartment. And if I had to buy an apartment, my salary was not sufficient enough. The only way for me is to shift myself. That by the time he moved to Chennai, he retired as the assistant head postmaster at the General Post Office at Chennai. And so I decided to shift to Chennai, and I went and then told my boss that I want to resign. For the only one time in 19 years, I thought of resigning. I went to my boss. He asked me why. I told him this is the scenario. He told me, why do you want to resign? We have an office at Chennai, and that takes care of the product support and field engineering, it's called. And you go over there. So he arranged for me to go to Chennai and then have a feel of the job. The field engineering manager at that time was a 57-year-old person, a ex-IBM person. He was the regional field engineering manager taking care of all 4 southern states. And he told me that you can be a field specialist on any critical call. You can come as a specialist and support. I thought actually, okay, my R&D knowledge will be still useful and field knowledge, manufacturing knowledge will be useful. So I went back to the office, and then I told at Bangalore that, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll take up this job and move over to Chennai. And it was another 2 months I was doing transfer of work at Bangalore. Just 2 days before myself leaving, my boss called me, and then he told, I want to talk to you about your Chennai job. I was very much worried actually. I thought actually maybe the position has gone, or I am not suitable for that position, so I am going to be rejected or some such thing, and I had to again look for a job. That's when he told me that the person whom I met, one Mr. Shankaran, who was 57 years old, ex-IBM, he has resigned, and organization has decided that I'll take over his job as the regional field engineering manager at Chennai. I was just something like 26, 27-year-old at that time, replacing a 57-year-old person, taking care of 4 southern states, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala, and Karnataka. In addition, Goa. In addition, Angul, Damanjodi, which was in the south of Odisha. I need to cover all those places as the regional field engineering manager, where I had zero background. Why I want to tell this is that, this was a great opportunity for me to meet customers, service products in time of crisis. There was a EID Paris factory at Nellikuppam in Tamil Nadu, just 1 day before the computer crashed. And next day they had to give the salary to the workers. And if salary is not dispatched, then there will be strike. And salary, all data is on computer. We went and then worked overnight and then made the system work at early morning 6 o'clock. And the payroll went, and then the salary issue was resolved. So you get to understand that how your product works in field and what critical role it plays, and why people are using your computer, and what needs to be done to keep your customer satisfied, because if your customer is satisfied, he will give you a repeat order. So that gave me entirely a different perspective about the field engineering job. And that was for another 1.5 years, and phenomenal learning for me. I had something like 100 engineers reporting into me in various field locations. 20 to 25 days a month, I used to be on travel, meeting our people as well as our customers, and then solving some critical problems. And after 1.5 years, I came back to R&D, and again, at that time I took over a product line called Micros. I'll take a pause at this point of time, Hemant, if you have any questions, otherwise I'll proceed.
So what I'm do is, in the interest of time, because I think you also have a 4 o'clock meeting, quickly I would ask few questions and leave the last message part to the students from you. Quickly, one question is that you were the chief executive R&D, global R&D for Wipro. Didn't you see the risk in leaving all of that and starting Mindtree? Wasn't there a big risk in leaving a top job and then starting up again?
Sure. Thanks, Hemant. So after that, I became the product head for the Micros, which was the PC line of product. Then I became the general manager for R&D, taking care of the technical, and then one of my colleague, Subhratu Bakshi, was taking care of the sales. Then finally, the technology as well as the sales I took over. I became chief executive of R&D. When I took over in 94, it was 300 engineers, and when I left in 99, it was 2,200 engineers at R&D. And it was a phenomenal learning and growth for me also. And it was a very, very tough decision for me to leave Wipro. But few things that happened during that time, actually. One is that there were new generation of services that was coming up in terms of the .com, B2B and B2C services on net. And second, the network, datacom and telecom became extremely important. And we had a very good feel of both the arenas. And 99 was the startup era. There were so many new startups in the services in the market that happened. And I had always serviced and worked at Wipro, and then had a phenomenal learning and phenomenal earning also. Absolutely no regret. Premji took care of us very well. But still there is an opportunity for us to start our own company. And only if at all I had to tell as a regret, but I won't blame Mr. Premji, is that the employee stock option plan of Wipro was very, very limited those days. And the top executives like us, they have got our share, but it's not every employee. So I have been to 98 to 99 at the US, and I have seen the wealth creation, and then the employee stock option, and then people sharing wealth, and then creating big enterprises. So we thought we should start a company where every employee should be the owner of the company. So Mindtree as a company we started focused on the .com and telecom arena, and 1/6 of the company, that is 16.67% of the employees, rather stocks of the Mindtree, was allocated to the employee stock option. And the first 4,000 employees of Wipro, every employee had stocks of Mindtree. So if at all I had to say, the motivation for getting into Mindtree was what I saw in US in terms of young entrepreneurs coming up. Second, there is always a reason and season, I believe, actually a reason in terms of having the experience, season in terms of the startups, and then the services doing pretty well in the Indian market. So I decided to become part of Wipro along with 9 other co-founders. Started Mindtree at 1999 August. By 2007, we went public when we were around $120 million. And today we are at, Mindtree is a $3 billion organization. In 2014, I completed 15 years at Mindtree, and I was 58. And always I used to look at Mr. Premji at 70 years also working for 18 hours a day. I thought I should enjoy my life a little bit. I thought, let me take a retirement and then get on to supporting startups rather than me working 24/7 in a company.
So quick question there. I think, all the students, youngsters, who are listening to you, there is this plan that we all have, that, okay, I'll do this, that, and then I will, sort of arrive in this world and I'll be a big man, right? In fact, to some extent, I have plans for myself that when I turn 35, I want to take a sabbatical. And I want to go to I want to do some farming and teaching and write poetry, which I still do to some extent, but I want to do that more. So I want you to share a little bit more about that. Once, you exited Mindtree, you had created a lot of wealth for yourself. You had a lot of social status, being the co-founder, CTO of Mindtree, one of the top early members of Wipro. So you had the social status, you had wealth with you, you have an amazing family. So what does life post Mindtree looks like for you? Because I think that's what all the students are looking for, a life like that, that you build organization, you are part of a large organization, and then you have arrived. So, but it would be good to know from you, what does life look like after that milestone?
Sure. Thanks, Hemant. One of the things that, I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, we should learn is to have an idea, nurture idea, grow it, but grow it till you can grow. And after that, you have to let it go. It's like a child, at the age of 16 or 17, you have to let go our own children, actually. We can't be possessive and hug them and sometimes crush them also. So I'll say my living of Mindtree is, I feel that I have done whatever I can, and then I have taken Mindtree to where it was. And possibly the professionals in future have to handle Mindtree rather than myself holding on to it ever because I am the co-founder, because nobody can ask me to go and I don't have to retire at all. But I felt that I have some charter beyond that. One, I have made enough wealth for myself. Second, I have learned a lot about industry. Third, I have seen how the startup ecosystems have happened at US, especially in Silicon Valley. And the same people who are in India go to a valley and then create a startup and then create large enterprises. And you can see today, whether it's a Google CEO or a Microsoft CEO, it's an Indian who is running it. So if we can do it overseas, why not in India? Why not nurture entrepreneurs? So I felt that I should deploy my wealth towards encouraging entrepreneurs, and I deploy my knowledge towards encouraging entrepreneurs to set up startups which are in the related arena where I'll be able to value add and then contribute. And so since then, as I was telling at the early stage, I have my own startup called Nuvepro, which is in the cloud technology, and we provide labs on the cloud for the education segment, learning segment, and Callpole, which is again yours. And then I support a company called InnoHub, which is focused on the handicap, especially visually impaired people, how technology can be assistive to them. And I support a medical healthcare startup, which was called SanoHub, which is in the telemedicine and virtual clinic arena. And like that, I support through the funds of various startups. And I feel that, I'm able to decide how I want to spend my time. If I want to allocate it for 1 week or 2 weeks going to Europe with my family, I can do. And if I want to spend a week with my startups and then, help them in terms of nurturing, I can do. And at any time for them, I am available at any point of time for seeking support and helping. So I would like to, I had been a reactant in the chemical term previously. Now I want to be a catalyst, where I'll be able to help others achieve what they want rather than myself being part of everything, actually. So whatever little I can do, I am doing it, and I'm extremely happy with how I am spending the last 5-6 years of, I'll say, half retired life, because 50% to the family and other 50% on all these entrepreneurial activities.
But the small joys of life remain the same, right? Because I remember last time when I visited your home, you still enjoy having your filter coffee right next to the kitchen, when your dosas are being cooked, right? So that small, I think that one of the key important points I wanted to bring out to the students was also that life doesn't really change a lot. The small things that gave you happiness earlier also continue to be the same things that will give you happiness later on.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, during the COVID time, my wife never used to allow me into the kitchen. Now I help her in washing utensils and then cutting vegetables and helping her in the kitchen also. But I'll tell you, those small things bring a lot of joy, because you are able to help your spouse, you are able to help your children. But we need to remember that there is a society around, and whatever little we can do, we have to simultaneously help them also. It's not beyond self, but it's not only for society, but at the same time, it can't be only you. It has to be a 360-degree view of life, and that's what brings the joy into life.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, sir. Jani sir, I would let you, any message that you want to have, that you want to share with the students. Personally, thank you so much for allowing me to have this conversation with you. It's always a joy, having a, discussion with you. So any message that you want to give to the students, and then I would like to hand over to Abhishek ji to take over.
Yeah, the main thing that I can tell you, that there are so many opportunities for me to settle abroad right from start. I have spent only 1 year, that too with a condition with Mr. Premji that I'll be back after 1 year. I'm not saying that going abroad is wrong, but many times people think that is the only thing which is future. Actually, there is so much opportunity in India. If in 1980 and 90 there was so much opportunity in India, there are going to be 10 times more opportunity in the 2020 and 2030 for the students. And there are a lot of things that can be achieved by being in India. And achieving is not just money aspect alone. There are so many things that you will be able to contribute. And life is not going to be smooth. There will be so many challenges, like the COVID challenge today, which industry and academia are overcoming. You will face your own challenges. Never feel let down. Actually, have confident that you can do it. Face the world with confidence. There are so much that one can achieve, and you have a great opportunity to achieve in India. And do your best and enjoy your life simultaneously. Both are important. You have to work hard, but at the same time you have to keep time for yourself, and you have to enjoy equally. Both are important. Best wishes to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jani sir. Thank you, Hemant, for this wonderful talk, and to you, sir, for sharing your story. I think it's truly inspirational, and I mean, everyone, I'm sure, had a lot of takeaways. I, especially being young and just, I mean, not just starting work, but in early phase of my work life, I mean, hearing stories from you and how you have gone through everything is really inspirational. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and helping us. Just want to say that at the university, we are focusing on 4 main areas. One being student centric, because we believe that students being the key stakeholders, their voice needs to be heard and work with them as partners in developing the university, the infrastructure, their expectations. We need to look into that. I mean, the national education policy says, and we truly believe that interdisciplinary education is very, very important. Strong industry intervention is very key for us. From day one, we have tried to not just partner, but co-partner the organizations and develop degree programs around with them, with their understanding their requirement. And I'm very happy that the university today is offering 15 such programs which are integrated completely with the industry, be it the Wiscrafts of the world setting up an entertainment degree in entertainment, or people like KPMG Consulting setting up commerce and accounting degrees, or setting up degrees with the National Stock Exchange having their trading terminals in the university. And the fourth most important, probably because I have studied almost all of my higher education from abroad, I feel that that's very important for students to understand what's happening. And I think you beautifully said, sir, that not everything is there outside in abroad and you don't have opportunities in India. But every student should have a perspective of what is out there, even if they're not going there. Because the next era is of India, I believe completely and truly. And all across the world, people are looking towards India. So the students who are coming out in the industry should have an international outlook. They should not think that what we have seen here is the end. So, and we have been doing it very successfully, especially our connected classroom programs, where our international partners and our students from both the universities are jointly doing projects on different things. And I think this is giving students not only the international exposure, but giving them an opportunity to interact with students from various countries. And this also helps them obviously in interpersonal skills development. And why I say these 4 very key important ones, because technology, without technology, these things cannot be implemented. In some way or the other, technology plays a very important part. It's a very embedded part as a JLU for our strategy of growth And I'm very happy and delighted that today Colpol and JLU have joined hands together, and we welcome Colpol as our technology partner in this endeavor for achieving excellence and the vision we have for the university. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Shivang and his team who've worked tirelessly during lockdown from last 3-4 months and helped us to come to this day when we are officially integrating the whole system into the university, and will be operational from today itself. But I would fail in giving my not by mentioning Hemant for partnering with us in this endeavor and ensuring that technology becomes an embedded part of everything we do in this university for getting to our vision ahead. So thank you very much. Thank you sparing your time. Thank you, Hemant, for doing this. And we
Thank
look
you,
forward for long-term partnership with you.
And best wishes to
All right,
all the
thank you.
students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.